All right, I'll call the meeting back to order. Sorry about that, folks. We had a little technical difficulties there. My name is Reeve Hamilton, and I will chair the hearing. All comments shall be directed through me. Administration will make the presentation first, followed by the opportunity for council to ask questions of clarification. The applicant will then make a presentation if they choose to do so, followed by the opportunity of council to ask questions of clarification. Council will then hear for those affected and persons in the audience. First, those who are support of the bylaw, and then those of opposition of the bylaw. All presentations must be presenters must be registered with the planning department if you have not already done so. If your presentation is in written document, including maps, photos, and reports, a copy of those documents must be left with the administration. Bylaw 2025-02, will administration please proceed with the presentation.
Thank you through the chair. I'm not sure that we had a motion to open the public hearing, Reeve Hamilton, with our technical difficulties, or did we? I did. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Michelle.
Good morning, and thank you through the chair. Bylaw 2025-02 is submitted by Monroe Surveys on behalf of Tim and Anna Schottner to rezone a vacant 6.5 acre parcel from Agricultural District 1 to Country Residential Limited District IDP. If the land use amendment is approved, then the applicant's intent is to apply to the Municipal Planning Commission for approval to subdivide the parcel from the remainder of the agricultural title. The existing title contains 65.46 acres. The land subject of the rezoning is contained within the southwest quarter of Section 22, Township 12, Range 6, west of the 4th, and is located approximately 2.2 kilometers north of Highway 3 and 280 meters west of the jurisdictional boundary of Cypress County and the City of Medicine Hat. The area is situated to the east of Range Road 63 and is capable of gaining direct and immediate access from this established public road. The remainder of the agricultural title will continue to utilize an existing private access drive located further to the north. The reclassification area is vacant, while the remainder of the parcel contains established yard site and irrigation district, irrigation acres. The area subject of this application does not contain irrigable acres and therefore is not anticipated to be impacted. The immediately surrounding lands are designated agricultural land use under the county's land use bylaw, and are several established greenhouses located in the area, with the nearest being approximately 300 meters to the north. And there is also a nearby country residential subdivision, 1.25 kilometers to the southwest. The applicant has submitted the proposed lot layout to accommodate the subdivision density requirements of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan. The proposed location provides for the least disruption to the irrigated acres on the parcel. The surveyor has also produced a plan indicating an appropriate development area which accommodates the minimum setbacks of the land use bylaw. There are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed reclassification area. If the application were to be approved, the reclassification and subdivision would be the final title eligible to be subdivided under the current potential growth area policies of the IDP. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural lands and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. The efficient use of land policy states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land that is necessary. Section 2.6, Potential Growth Area of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan, states that the county wishes to retain the rural nature of its ratepayers and believes that service residential development outside existing hamlet boundaries becomes costly and difficult to administer and maintain. The county has a limited capacity to provide an urban level of water and sewer services to the area and its other hamlets. The IDP recognizes that it is in the interests of both the city and the county to retain large parcel sizes for agricultural purposes. Under the Potential Growth Area Policy, Section 2.6.2, it directs council as follows. Continued agricultural and agricultural support uses within the potential growth area are preferred. Uses other than agriculture or agricultural support should not be allowed unless they are an existing use or the expansion of an existing use. Parcels located within the potential growth area may be considered by the county for a land use bylaw amendment and subdivision approval for limited country residential. The cumulative area of the subdivision shall not exceed 10% of the original parcel to be subdivided as it existed as prior to the adoption of this IDP. And in order to be eligible for further subdivision, a parcel must be at least 40 acres in size and must not be located on irrigated land. Section 4.1.24, Subdivision IDP of the county's Municipal Development Plan, states that the county shall follow all applicable policies within the IDP relating to subdivision of lands within the boundary. At the time of writing this report, no comments were received from the town of Redcliffe. We did receive comments from the City of Medicine Hat just recently, and they've provided that they have no objection, provided that the current potential growth area policies are followed, and Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors is consulted. At the time of writing the report, no comments were received from any adjacent landowners. And due to the application's proximity to the Highway 3, Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors is a required referral. They replied that the department anticipates minimal impact on the highway from the proposal. There is no proposed access to the highway, and there is sufficient local road access to the subdivision and the adjacent lands. ATEC grants approval for the subdivision authority to vary the requirements of Section 18 and 19 of the Subdivision and Development Regulation. Administration recommends that Council move second and third readings for Bylaw 2025-02. The proposed application for rezoning complies with the efficient use of land principles of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, Section 2.6 Potential Growth Area Policies of the Intermunicipal Development Plan, as well as Section 4.1.24 of the Municipal Development Plan. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Kayleen. Are there any questions or clarifications from administration, from council? Blaine?
Yeah, to the chair. Just so that land to the north where like the greenhouses, that's all zoned ag right now then?
Through the chair, all of the lands contained to the north and it's shown on the adjacent land use map. Everywhere that you see highlighted in green is agriculturally districted, and then further to the southwest in blue is the country residential districts.
Rob?
Thank you, through the chair. Kayleen, with the parcel that they're looking at subdividing out, with the setbacks that are required for development, does that give it actually enough space to do a residential subdivision with the amount of, it's long and narrow? Just wondering if there's enough room for the setbacks that we would require for that.
That's a great question through the chair. We did have the surveyor plot out essentially a building envelope that accommodates 6 meters from both the side and rear property lines, as well as the 40 meters minimum setback from Range Road 63. There's adequate area. It's actually quite deceiving. The area north-south is 50 meters running north-south, which would allow about a 30-meter distance for actual development to be located in there.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Does the applicant have any presentation? Okay. Does council have any questions for the applicant? Not seeing any. I will now call for any participants for anyone in the support of the proposed bylaw. I will now call a second time for participation for any support in the proposed bylaw. I will now call a third time for any participation in the proposed bylaw. I will now call for any presentations for anyone opposed to the proposed bylaw. I'll call a second time for any presentations for anyone opposing. Third and final time for anyone proposing the proposed bylaw. I now will call for any final submissions for those who feel they have not had the opportunity to fully participate in the public hearing. The public hearing for bylaw 2025-02 is now concluded and no further submissions will be accepted. I will call for a motion to close the public hearing. Dustin, at 10:23, vote. Okay. We are on to 6.1. Motion for Dunmore Junction. Dustin?
Thank you, Reeve. So I brought this forward just to more or less open discussion back up with the, just one second here, with regarding Dunmore Junction. I did receive quite a few calls on this between the period of our last meeting in December and then actually in the January, of people asking questions and more or less looking to see if there will be land available to purchase out there. And I said, well, we have to make that decision as council and I'll bring it back. So that's essentially what this is. And it was more or less to get it rocking so it doesn't fall off the books and we can make a decision one way or the other.
Mr. Reeve, members of the council, as this is a land issue, I would suggest that council either to discuss strategy with the sale or with the development of that land, that council either move into closed session at this point or leave it to closed session later in the day.
Are you good to leave it till later? Okay, we'll move this over till later in the day when we go in closed session. All right, we're on to 7.1.1. Who's? That was, I thought.
Yeah.
No time for coffee, Kayleen. Sorry, I did think that was going to go longer in the discussion, so.
Through the chair, applicant just had a few questions. So bylaw 2025-02 is submitted by Tim and Anna Schottner to rezone a vacant 6.5 acre parcel. The public hearing just occurred, and the recommendation is that council move second and third readings of the bylaw.
Thank you. So Richard's moving second. Anybody have any questions or comments on it? Keith?
This won't come anywhere close to the Highway 320, or that's not our concern, is it?
No, because Alberta Transportation has already okayed it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Not seeing any? Vote. That's carried. Somebody want to move third? Blaine's moving third. Vote. That's carried. Okay, we're on to 7.1.2.
Thank you through the chair. Bylaw 2025-03 is submitted by Linda Weir to rezone a .56 acre parcel from Agricultural District 1 to Hamlet Industrial District. The property is located along Charles Street within the hamlet of Dunmore, and the recommendation is for council to move first reading of the bylaw with the public hearing to be set for February 19th.
Thank you, Kayleen. Robin, you're moving that? Do you want to comment on it, or? Okay. Any comments? Vote. It's carried. 7.1.3. Now you can have your coffee, Kayleen.
Thank you
You're
through
on.
the chair. We have the annual fire guard appointments, RFD, in front of you. Also have Fire Chief Jason Linton here to answer any questions or concerns regarding the appointments. Administration is recommending the appointment of our fire chief, our deputy fire chief, as well as the duty officers to provide fire guardian services within the county. This is a requirement of the Forest and Prairie Protection Act and an annual administration appointment.
Thank you. Somebody want to move that? Lloyd? Leslie, do you want to read off all of the names?
That council appoints Jason Linton, Matt O'Reilly, Keith Fisher, Brady Pankos, Les Dirksen, Jim Foose, and Justin Dursaf as fire guardians for a term of 1 year in accordance with the Forest and Prairie Protection Act.
Thank you, Les. Any questions on it? Vote. That's carried. 7.1.4.
Thank you, and through the chair, we have in front of you an item for a municipal bylaw officer appointment. We have our current officer retiring this week, and in the interim, we have hired on Jason Schreiber as our municipal peace officer. There are 2 appointments required for him to enact full powers. The first is through our own bylaw officer bylaw. And while this is going on, we also have the provincial appointment that is through the Solgen. So administration is recommending the appointment of Jason Schreiber as the Cypress County Municipal Bylaw Enforcement Officer to take effect when he completes the oath of office.
Okay, thank you. Dustin? Moving that. Any questions on it?
Just a minor one, probably for the ratepayers. Does the cell phone number change then, or is it a new number issued?
There will be a new phone number being issued. So we will have posting and some social media that'll go out when the new peace officer appointment comes through.
Any other questions? Vote. Okay, that's carried. All right. Thank you, Joe. Come on up, Ken. Public Works, new private dust control.
Thank you. Through the chair. We prepared the new private dust control program to move forward through administration is seeking council's direction on establishing a cost formula to determine the fee for new private dust control application using calcium or similar dust suppressant products. Through motion in 2024, council chose to transition from oil to calcium for all new dust patches starting in January 1st, 2025. As part of this transition, council requested administration to develop a costing formula for implementation of this plan. A little bit of background. The use of calcium in similar dust suppressant products such as MG30 are used in rural municipalities on gravel roads to reduce dust. Counties and MDs that have historically used oil-bound surfacing, such as cold mix, have transitioned to the dust suppressant product due to the increasingly high cost of installation and overall maintenance costs of the oil-bound surfacing. The new dust suppressant product replacing the oil-bound cold mix surfacing will not be subject to the special tax for dust control, as it is a one-time application upon request. Applications will be accepted up until March 1st of each calendar year, with a minimum of 3 applications required for the program to proceed for that year. Legacy oil dust control patches installed before 2025 will continue to be maintained by the county until further and future phase-out strategies are presented to council for approval. Administration has reviewed the costs associated with supplying and applying the new dust suppressant treatment, in addition to consultation with neighboring municipalities on various cost-sharing strategies. The approach to follow here is the applicant would cover 65% of the costs, representing the product cost only. The county covers 35%, representing the equipment and labor expenses required to place the product. Follow-up actions after this motion would be updating the 2025 master rates bylaw and bringing back the dust control policy with amendments. Reference to the strategic plan, that transition from oil-bound surfacing cold mix to calcium, along with establishing a cost share model for all new dust control patches, will align with council's balanced financial strategy objective of cost share recovery for services and operational stabilization. Recommended motion that council direct administration to prepare the master rates bylaw with update rates, establish a cost-sharing model for new private dust control application wherein the applicant pays 65% and the county contributes 35% of the total cost. I prepared a few other options for council's consideration. The second one would be that council direct administration to prepare the master rates bylaw with update rates, establish a cost-sharing model for new private dust control applications within that the application covers an amount determined by council at the total cost, and the county contributes a percentage that council would decide. The third option, that council direct administration to prepare the master rates bylaw with updated rates, establishing full cost recovery for new private dust control application wherein the applicant covers 100% of the cost of installation. Fourth option, that council direct administration to bring back alternative cost-sharing models for new private dust control applications to a future meeting. Any questions?
Thank you. Dustin?
May I ask a question, or do I have to make a motion first?
Make a motion.
Okay, I'll move number 3. And then my question would also be on that, what is the plan on continuation on maintenance with them? What would the cost share fund, is that going to be the same cost share funding model, or is it going to be different from the original?
Through the chair. The existing oil that's down, as mentioned in here, it will continue to maintain it at the county's costs, and in the future we'll look at implementing phase-out strategies as where if the dust suppressant product requires full rehabilitation, then we could look at in the future of removing that or costs going to the applicant to redo it again. So redo it with a new product. So once it gets past to a certain point, then we would look at, not providing the oil again. So that's not part of this motion here.
That's what I'm asking though, is
Yeah.
on the new product, when it needs to be reapplied, what's the cost share model there? Is it going to be the same as the original, or is it going to be a shared?
Yeah, through the chair, it will be the same formula.
So I guess maybe I'll change my motion then a little bit. So I like the idea of the initial cost being 100% on the ratepayer, but then a reapplication be a 50-50 split.
Okay, as a motion, should we look and see how long that's gonna last?
Well, if we look at any of our MG roads, it's so far, we see that, 3 to 5 year mark sort of thing?
Through the chair. Yeah, as far as the dust suppressant product, it ranges. It depends on the amount of traffic, the high-use roads. It could be the next year needs to be reapplied. Could be 2 years, could be 3 years. So it's not guaranteed. We don't guarantee it for any length of time. It's proven to last a good 6 months through the dusty season, but we'll continue on if there's limited traffic on the road.
Because essentially right now we're charging, what is an annual maintenance fee on dust control?
$475, isn't it?
475.
Yeah, through the chair, the master rates is $475 for this year and increases to $25 in 2026. That was through a council motion. So that really doesn't really cover the cost of maintenance. The maintenance cost on average ranges from $6,000 to $7,000 for rip and replace. So that's probably about 15 years you'd have to pay that off. The initial one, as we know, costs, if you want new dust abatement, it would be about $25,000 to $27,000. So it'd take 50 years for that to pay. So that, that I think that's why we're here to.
So with a new application being 2,250 with MG, what would a reapplication cost be? The same?
Right now, it's the same. I suggest or recommend evaluation over the year to see if the product is the same application rate. So as far as maybe it's the third time, maybe the liters per square meter can be reduced. So there could be some cost saving there. I think that's probably, we'll get some good data on the first year to make that change.
So I guess essentially my question for council would be then, I like the idea of it getting paid for completely upfront, but where is our comfortability on that maintenance aspect? Is it 100% on the ratepayer every year, or is that a split that we do?
Through the chair, if the county takes over half and half, like after, for this second putting it on, is that affordable? Like, can we, if we do that, are we going in the hole that way?
Through the chair. No, it's very cost effective to do that split. We did factor that in our 2025 budget just for maintenance for throughout the year. But as far as the maintenance cost or the reapplication, the whole process is the same no matter what. Same equipment, same product. Maybe the time that the product goes down, it's just the volume of the product.
Robin, you had something?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Through the chair, the annual maintenance fee, it seems if the reapplication is, say, that $1,500 and it could last for 3 years, it seems like the maintenance fee itself could almost stay the same, and just we change the standard and the product that we use. I'm okay, I suppose, with the covering the cost up front. But part of me also wonders if, if we just set up that annual, you sign up for the program, this is what you're going to be paying, $600, $500 a year, whatever that looks like. It's affordable, people can get into it. We're just changing the standard. That is something that's easier to maintain and it's easier to swallow, and what we're charging actually covers off what we've got. I'm kind of curious if there's any interest in that.
Richard?
Two questions. First one is, what kind of preparation is being done before this is applied?
Thank you. Through the chair. The road will be inspected and the assessment of the gravel surfacing will be looked at. The additional gravel will be placed prior to a certain rate, and then there will be a mixing process. If we're talking about prior to the product being applied, there's a water truck that needs to be there for that application too, and then it gets worked in the top 4 to 6 inches and then packed down.
Okay. What was my other question? I guess for discussion, I have a tough time having the applicant pay the total bill. When I think about it, we're going to do some grading anyway. We're going to put some gravel down in most cases because we keep our roads in great shape. So I am more of the opinion that the applicant pays for the product and we look after the equipment and the labor expenses. That also kind of softens the blow a bit because I look at what we're doing with the people that have the oil portions by the road, and we're definitely helping them out. The other part is that we encourage any new development to be on a dry corner, which is always close to a road. We encourage them to have easy access onto a road. So we're asking them to place their houses or buildings in an area that will get dust. It's just part of it, and not everybody can be back a few hundred yards from the road. Dust in your back a ways, but other people on the dry corners aren't always that lucky. So I just feel that we need to pick up part of the tab, and the equipment part, I feel should be ours.
Dustin?
So I'm okay with picking up some of the tab, but I kind of propose it a little bit of a different way. So I think what we should be doing is that $2,250 up front to get it initially installed. And then after that, we do it on a 50-50 cost share. So we'll essentially go off the premises that it's going to last for 3 years. And then, so essentially you break that down, it's going to be a $750 cost per year for that. So we split that in half, and $375 is what the ratepayer would pay as a maintenance fee a year ongoing afterwards. And that would essentially, in 3 years' time, pay 50% of that reapplication.
Al?
Thank you, Mr. Members of the Council. Just for clarification, the bylaw doesn't speak the $475 a year being for maintenance. It's for the initial placement of the dust control. The bylaw doesn't use the words maintenance. It uses the words placement of dust control product.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. Through the chair to our new leader. Are you suggesting then that it states that it's for placement of, and that maintenance has been simply implied or assumed? Because we haven't, as maintenance occurs, I don't believe that there has been any kind of new fee or anything like that in my experience.
Through the chair, the bylaw actually reads, and whereas the cost or portion of the cost shall be collected by way of a special tax, that's as per the MGA, and whereas the cost of placing dust treatment on roads adjacent to parcels of land benefiting therefrom is included in the annual budget and estimated to be when the bylaw was passed at almost $600,000. So the bylaw itself reads it as for placement, and my interpretation of that would be that with the tax roll that's attached to it, that $475 a year is to recover the cost of the placement of the dust control, and maintenance is a separate issue. I'm not suggesting for a moment that council couldn't have a maintenance fee or shouldn't have a maintenance fee, but we're talking about maintenance with the bylaw when in actual fact the bylaw is about placement and not about maintenance.
So then if we go the way Dust and say we need to have another bylaw that says it's a maintenance.
Well, either another bylaw or we need to amend the bylaw Because I think what you're saying too is that regardless of what we do with the MG30 and the calcium, that ambiguity exists still with the existing bylaw that we have.
Through the chair, yes and no. For example, with the new dust control product that Mr. Lucas is talking about Mr. Jacobs is talking about, I don't know where that came from. That can just be, I believe that can just be handled through policy. Because you're going to pay up front to get your dust control, you get your MG30 or your calcium chloride, whatever it is, you're going to pay up front. Part of the issue with the oil dust control that's expensive is we were essentially helping offset that cost over multiple years. And if you didn't have it through bylaw, then it would be impossible to put back on somebody's taxes if they refuse to pay. But on a product such as MG30 or calcium chloride that you're going to have them pay up front, then you could just have an annual maintenance fee attached through a policy, so it wouldn't, the bylaw itself would not need to change in that regard. Now, if you want to call maintenance or placement, I'll leave that to council to determine if you're happy with what's currently there. But on the new product, I think that's easily handled just through policy. I had a quick whisper with Mr. Taves, and he agrees that that could be just through the policy.
Yeah, we don't want to touch that 475 because that's actually paying for that $30,000 placement that we put in certain for all those years. And we need that to stay there.
I think that when I brought that up, and perhaps with Dustin as well, we keep on bringing in how it's been, but that's not what we're talking about currently. We're definitely talking about like the new product that we have moving forward, and the reason why I kind of brought it up is it does make it more affordable than having a $3,000 bill for somebody who wants to put the material in. I suppose we can kind of gauge that with our residents to see whether that's something that is going to be palatable or not. It's certainly a big change going from $475 a year for strip to, yes, it's a one-time fee up front, but for some that might be a tougher pill to swallow. But that's why I kind of brought it up gives them a little bit of the ability to eat it in chunks, but I also understand what we're talking about with the upfront part.
Mr. Jacobs.
Through the chair. As far as maintenance is pretty much limited to smoothing out. It takes less grading because it's holding the material in a little bit better. It's stabilizing it. So as far as the maintenance costs, it'd be tricky to kind of gauge a value there. With that product also, there is a bit of a cost saving too. With it locks in the gravel a bit more, so 40% more. That's on the term. So for gravel loss. So as far as maintenance, I mean, graders go by that road anyways. So there really wouldn't be an ongoing maintenance application.
I still see the maintenance portion as like if you take a 10-year.
You're not on.
Sorry, if you take a 10-year cycle, you might reapply 2 or 3 times. You amortize that, you divide it by 10, gives you an annual cost to keep that, applied in decent shape, something like that. That's where my mindset was at with it. I agree with you. It's not like we're sending a truck out specifically to grade it because we are going over it.
Yep.
Initially it's set up as a one-time application, and then when it gets a little more dusty after a year or two, then they would reapply. That's typically with the other municipalities how it stands.
Blaine.
Yeah, to the chair. So just to back this up and so I can understand it better. What we're talking about right now is the application here, whether it's 65, 75, 100, whatever. But the 470, wouldn't the 475 maintenance fee still be applied to the tax roll yearly, or is this going to be a separate thing? Or
That's the oil. Less.
Thank you through the chair. I think, in my opinion, how council maybe needs to look at this is that it's 2 separate items. So you have your legacy dust control, which is your oil service, and now council has directed administration to come back with, we're going to use this new product, right? We're transitioning away from the oil dust control. So I think you have to kind of look at them as 2 separate products, right? Does administration need to bring back a recommendation to council how we're going to phase out those dust control strips in the future, but we have to kind of look at it as two separate programs.
Yeah, that's what I kind of said there, because that oiled one was a $30,000 cost to put that in, and that 475 is to recuperate that original. That isn't even a maintenance fee in there, that's just to recuperate the first laying of it. So we got to keep that out of our minds, and then we got to think about this proposal in front of us, which I have on the floor still at 100%, or what, 100% just for this, but we're not discussing maintenance fee on this. This is just the application. So we're voting on the on this right now. Should we bring this back in a year or two and see how it's holding up, and then we can look at, we can't predict, maybe this stuff's gonna last 5 years, and or a year from now. Robin?
Thank you. Councillor Vossler, could I potentially sell you on a friendly amendment to doing the cost share? And here's why I'm kind of hung up on it. I just mentioned to Councillor Ritz, the fact that it's based on traffic and all that different stuff as well, and there is that 40% savings in gravel loss and things like that. There are some benefits to the county, and I see if we're charging the upfront to the resident, but you have a busy road where other people are utilizing that busy road, they're wearing that road out quicker. I see there being some value to the county contributing a bit on the upfront part on that as well. Yes, they still choose to live on a busy road, but if they're paying upfront for the material, they may be doing it quite a lot more frequently. And if there is an upside to us and it simplifies our process, would you accept it as a friendly amendment to your 100%? Is there a middle ground there?
The reason I went the 100% route is because I feel that it's one of those things, everyone's got to pay their little bit of a piece of a pie to get something. We've been giving a lot away for a lot of years, and it's time to stop. It really is. So, I don't look at $2,250 being an unreasonable ask to take and get dust control put in front of your property. And then that's where I had that conversation about the maintenance being shared after the fact. And that way, it just essentially a flat maintenance fee, right? Whether that's $375, $475, $575 a year, and that's just what you pay from there on out. I feel it's a fairer approach that way to having that product being done at some sort of a discounted cost in front of your property, because not everybody gets it, and not everybody's going to pay for it. With the existing dust control, everybody who had that had a really good deal. For a lot of years, that was a really, really, really good deal, but we're done with it. We can't afford to play that game anymore. So I think going forward, we should probably just hit the nail on the head right off the start and say, this is what the initial cost is, and this is the maintenance every year going forward, and be done with it. It gives us pretty much, it gives us full cost recovery off the start, and then 50%-ish going forward. And, some are going to last longer than others, and, hopefully they all offset each other. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay, so there's no friendly there. Your motion right now is 100% upfront and 50%, or do you want to hold off and review it for 1 year? And
I honestly think we could take and put the 50% in off the start, and let's just make it that we review it in a year.
Okay.
Because then there's at least something on paper, and if it's none of us sitting at this table in a year's time, at least they know what we were thinking.
Okay, so before I let you go, I just want to make sure we have the motion right on what Dustin's saying. So you're saying 100% upfront, paying for it, and 50%?
So we'll put a dollar figure on it instead of 50%. Just put a dollar figure of $375, and that'll work out to 50% over a 3-year time period.
If it lasts 3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And to be reviewed in 1 year to see how it's holding up.
And it'll give us, then we have a metric to work on in the following year.
Yep. Okay.
Someone will be here to remember.
Okay, so that's the motion. Les, are you clear on that?
No, I'm not. I'm not clear. So is the 50% for maintenance, or I'm unclear?
Okay, hold on.
Whether the word is maintenance, whether the word is continuing care, I don't really care what it is. It's whatever works out the best in your guys' wording.
Mr. Reeve, I would suggest two motions. One would be the recommended action of number 3 as per Councillor Vossler, and then a separate motion discussing the maintenance recovery over whether the 3-year period. I would suggest, I think that's part of the confusion right now is, I think, two motions.
That'll keep it cleanest. Okay. Okay, so the motion I have on the floor right now is for 100% cost recovery off the start. Okay, everybody's clear on that? Okay, you have a question on it.
Yeah, I guess that what I'm concerned about though is that if they're, like, they need to be tied together somehow, because otherwise we're saying it's going to be $22.50 for a strip, and if it's going to wear out in a year and a half, we may have people that are paying $1,500 a year, $2,000 a year on a busy road for, potentially.
No, we won't.
Because, well, you're assuming that,
Okay, hold on.
It's the initial costing.
Yeah.
So the initial cost is $2,250.
I agree, but you're
And that's
assuming
what-
that the next motion's going to pass.
Well, if it doesn't pass, then I guess they pay that every year. That's, if you still pass them both,
Yeah.
then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion I have on the floor right now is for 100% cost recovery. There's no maintenance in it. That's what the motion is. Everybody's clear on that? Does anybody want to talk on that motion? Keith?
So I'm just going to get back to what Richard was saying. If we put this product down, will there be any cost savings to the county because we've put it down? Because if we're expecting the landowner to pay for it all and we're making the savings, that tend to kind of waffle a little bit on that then. But I don't know what that savings would be. Maybe you could help me out on that, what that savings would be if, in that first year.
Through the chair, if we're looking at probably 40% gravel reduction loss, and probably 50% of the grading required on the surface, probably $50 to $100. So it's fairly negligible for the short patch.
So it would be pretty minimal then?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you can speak. Michelle, you had something?
I am a little confused about this. So if we make it so that the ratepayers pay the 100%, is the special tax still on there that they're still paying $475 a year?
No,
So
that's.
that's
that
okay,
has
okay.
Nothing to do with this one. Two completely different things. Any other questions or comments?
One more comment. I will be voting no against the 100%, and it's because I don't feel that we're being fair to the ratepayers. Council could pass another greenhouse development. It could be, there could be another Hutterite colony going in there. My neighbor could now go from dry land to irrigation, and all of a sudden the yield is gone up 1,000%, which increases all the traffic, or the amount of traffic going by me big time. So you're penalizing the ratepayer with the full cost because the traffic is increased. I feel that we need to be fair with the ratepayer, and yeah, you want some product, we'll put it down, but we will look after the rest of it, so.
Okay, so a comment on that one, Richard, is this is just for the laying of the initial cost of it. If we get to the next step where we're sharing a portion, then what you're saying is covered in that. So you got to think of it two different motions there.
Yeah, and my first yeah, but my thoughts are, the way it was first presented at 65-35 is what I like.
Blaine?
Yeah, that's, I just wanted to clarify that too, because my concern is the 100%, 2250, if it has to get maintained and redone again in a year, or even if it's 2 years, then the ratepayer is going to be on the hook for half of it, according to the rest of Dustin's motion. Am I right?
Yeah.
So he's going to be paying $3,000 in 2 years then.
Essentially, what I'm proposing here, and this first motion has to go at 100% to do that, because I want them to pay 100% to the initial upfront. The second motion I want to do is I want to do a 50% on a 3-year replacement. So it's $375 per year is what that would work out to.
Where do you come up with $375
So if you
per
take
year?
$2,250, you divide it by 3 years, that's $750 divided by 2, that's $375.
What if it needs to be redone the next year?
We're averaging it out on a 3-year term, and that's where we put it, mark it as that, and then we revisit it in that year's time if they're holding up. We leave it alone. If it's not, we revisit it.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yeah, I struggle with the 3-year or specifying a period of time on the product, not knowing the how effective it is. Initially, having it as a one-time application at 100%, okay. And if it lasts 1 or 2 years, I need to reapply it. Perhaps for the second application, third, or any down the road, it's a cost share in that strategy, like a 50-50, or because it likely will lose or use less.
But the problem with doing it that way is on the busy roads, it's going to cost that person a lot more, and on the non-busy roads, it's going to cost that person a whole lot less. Doing it this way takes and shares those two together, so everybody pays kind of an equal portion of it. That's what I'm getting at. It's essentially the same kind of thing as what dust control is, how we have that yearly fee, that $475.
Okay, we got, I'm not going to call a question yet. We're discussing, so I'm going to table this because we have delegations here, and we'll get back to this after the delegations. That way, Mr. Hawk will get a chance to see what we're talking about, because he just came in from his doctor's appointment. So table it. We'll take a 5-minute break.
I apologize, I was talking out loud, so.
That's okay.
Mr. Reeve, could we actually have somebody make the tabling motion?
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Richard's
thank you.
making that motion. Vote. You guys vote over there?
I don't know if anybody heard what Rob said yet.
Yeah, I seen Robin's vote was yes. It's carried. Sorry about that. Okay, let's take a 5-minute. Sorry. All right, guys, we'll get everybody back in their positions. Ken, can you grab that door? Thank you. All right, call the meeting back to order. We have we're a few minutes late here, but our 11 o'clock delegation is here. I'll give the floor to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Reeve and Council, for allowing us to come back and visit you again regarding the Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee. I am Merrill Harris, a councillor with the Municipal District of Tabor.
I'm Gary Franz, just a local farmer west of here. There we go. Gary Franz, a local farmer just west of here. I was past chair of St. Mary's River Irrigation District and co-chair of the committee here.
Arliss Crofts, CAO with the Municipal District of Tabor.
Okay. As I said, we're grateful for the opportunity to be back to visit with you and to bring you up to speed as to what's been happening with the Drainage Committee. This committee was sort of loosely formed back in about 2013 after numerous severe flooding events that occurred in 2010, 2011, 2013, 14, and 18. And some of these storms have created a lot of significant damage to cropland, infrastructure, and personal residences. The Regional Drainage Committee was formed to study the area, and if you can move to the map, I think it's one more down, to study the area and develop solutions to the ever-increasing stormwater. No, not that map. The one that's just a couple more steps. That one right there. So this is the area that was studied. The provincial government gave us a grant to do a regional drainage study. So as you'll see on the map there, it starts all the way down south of McGrath, Alberta, extends up through the east side of Lethbridge, and all the region from basically east of Lethbridge to the city of Medicine Hat. This area was studied, and numerous projects were identified that would help alleviate drainage issues throughout the region. Prior to the formation of this committee and prior to the beginning of the Horsefly Spillway project, there was only one place along that whole SMRID main canal that water could be taken out of the canal and dumped back into the river system, so that more drainage water could be added into the irrigation infrastructure. And after some of these major storm events, the farmers and landowners want to get the water off their land as quickly as they could, and SMRID's main canal was the vehicle that everybody wanted to use to get this water off of their land. And so we've been working with SMRID from the beginning to work with them to use their infrastructure to find ways of getting drainage water off the land and back into the river system. So there were 7 projects identified in this study back in 2014, and roughly $168 million worth of projects and upgrades to the SMRID main canal system to alleviate drainage or to help get the drainage issue, the flooding issues off of the land and into the SMRID main canal. And the first of those projects was the Horsefly Regional Emergency Spillway. The second is the Sherburne Spillway and Reservoir Expansion. And Sherburne is, if you don't know, is south of the Grassy Lake area. And then the third project was SMRID Main Canal Drain Inlet Pump Stations. And if you see the little circles with P along the canal, that's what those projects are. And it's basically, if you want to call it hotspots, that simply setting up a pump, and by setting up a pump there, you can get the water off the land and into the SMRID Main Canal. 4 is Chin Reservoir Expansion, and Chin is a big lake south of Tabor, south of Barnwell area. It's a big lake reservoir on the SMRID system. The Sauter Reservoir Spillway, which is just west of Medicine Hat here. Murray Reservoir Expansion, which is, I'm sure you're all aware of that one, which is south and west of Medicine Hat. And then the Paradise Creek Dry Dam. And those are the projects were identified in this study that was done that would help with mitigating the flooding effects that happen. And there's been flooding in this region. There's been flooding in the Lethbridge region. We've, in the MD of Tabor, have had certain events that have caused a lot of overland flooding. And these projects were all identified to help throughout the whole region deal with flooding issues. So if you go to the next one, economic factors. Irrigation is the largest industry in southern Alberta, and several industries either directly or indirectly benefit from the success of irrigation. The SMRID Main Canal serves about 500,000 acres of irrigated farmland in southern Alberta. And the water, as you probably are aware, comes up out of the States and is held in numerous reservoirs between here and between the headwaters and down here in Medicine Hat area. The Irrigation enables farmland to produce high-value specialty crops that support the food processing and livestock industry in Alberta. Without irrigation water, southern Alberta is pretty dry, and dryland crops would be the only crops that you'd be able to grow here, grains and oilseeds and those sort of things. The fact that we're able to have irrigation has developed both the livestock industry and specialty crops industries in our area. Sugar beets being one of the first that were brought into the area, and that as a result of water being available for crop production. Since then, lots of other specialty crops, hybrid canola, potatoes, onions, you can go on and name it, and there's lots of crops that are grown in this area and in the region because of irrigation. The agri-food processing centers rely on crops grown between the Lethbridge and Medicine Hat corridor. So all these companies, whether it's Atlantic Sugar, Cavendish Farms for potatoes, BASF, and numerous hybrid canola companies, they all came to southern Alberta as a result of water and the security of water, knowing that year after year their producers would have enough water to be able to grow the crops that they could process the crops that they process. If we didn't have that water and the security of the water, it would be a different landscape here in southern Alberta, for sure. Some of the notable ones that I've just mentioned: McCain's Foods, Cavendish Farm, Lamb Weston, they all process potatoes. Hostess Frito-Lay, again, potatoes and corn products. Roger Sugar, Canberra Foods, Bonduelle, it's not Bonduelle any longer, it's called Norterra, but frozen vegetables. Maple Leaf Foods, hog processing, and Sunrise Poultry, chicken processing, and then beef processing. And on top of the beef processing is the feedlots, again, require water for their animals and water for the crops that they grow to feed to their animals. So the risk is if a major storm event happened and we didn't have ways of dealing with all the flood waters, could result in the loss or the breaking of the SMRID main canal, which cut off the availability of water both to irrigate land and to process the crops that are grown on the irrigated land. Failure of the canal would impact farmers, food processors, and several industries that are secondary or tertiary to farming, and food processing in the Lethbridge and Medicine Hat corridor. Failure of the canal would create losses to the Alberta economy. In 2021, Lethbridge County itself estimated the agriculture sector within the region contributed $3.7 billion to the economy. And that's huge for southern Alberta. It's a lot of agriculture and processing contributions to the economy. Our region wouldn't be what it is today without the agricultural industry and the availability of water to grow these specialty crops. Failure of the canal also increases the risk of losing potable water to many of the areas in the region. Most of the communities between Lethbridge and down here in Medicine Hat rely on that SMRID as their canal as their source of raw water for their water treatment plants. So the status of the projects. The Sauter Reservoir Spillway, SMRID took that one on by itself. They upgraded, and Gary can probably tell you better than I did what exactly they did, but they upgraded or replaced the spillway that would drain water out of the canal and puts it back into the South Saskatchewan River. Chin Reservoir expansion, SMRID is also taking that project on as a part of the irrigation expansion project that the government of Alberta is encouraging. This is a huge project. They'll be adding about 5 miles to the length of the reservoir, as well as raising the level of the reservoir, and I'm not sure how many acre feet that actually works out to. But the SMRID has taken that project on also, and they're doing, again, through government funding and different sources, they're able to get that project done. In December of 2022, the phase one of the Horsefly Regional Emergency Spillway was started, and that project comes out of Tabor Lake and dumps water in an emergency back down into the Old Man River. Phase two of that project transfers water between the Horsefly Reservoir, which is south of Tabor, and Tabor Lake, which is right at Tabor. And phase 3 of the project, which got underway this past fall, can take about half of the water out of the SMRID main canal and divert it through Horsefly Lake, through Tabor Lake, and dump the water back into the Old Man River. And what that does for everybody downstream of this turnout at Horsefly, the canal is then about if it was running right full, it would take half the water out of the canal, and that leaves half the water, half the canal's availability to pick up drainage water further east of that turnout, which is about 5-6 miles south of Tabor. So anybody east of that turnout then their canal has more capacity to be able to take drainage water off of the land and put it into the canal for conveyance further down the project and into some of these other reservoirs.
Right, and this would have been very helpful in the floods of 2018 when we had hired 40-some excavators and we're trying to bail out the snow in the canals from 40 Mile Dam down to Sauder to get to our Sauder Dam, Sauder spillway that would have been able to take the water to the river. We were very close. We did have some breaches of that canal that time, but had that canal washed out in that stretch between Tabor and 40 Mile, that means everything down from that could have gone through the summer without the water needed to start crops until we got that repaired and up and running. So a lot of times when those type of events happen, it's not just below that event, but also up from it. So we wouldn't have been able to operate probably from Chin Dam down because you couldn't regulate that flow in that canal. So that's the kind of event that this is going to help prevent and protect our infrastructure so that we have that water security we need.
Okay, so the next one on the project on the list is Sherburne Spillway and Reservoir expansion. Again, expanding the Sherburne Reservoir, which is south of Grassy Lake, so that it could hold more water in the event of a flood. More water could be diverted in there. We've talked about the main canal drain inlet pumping stations. Those are the little P's, circled P's along the main canal. Murray Reservoir and expansion, the same idea. Murray Reservoir would be expanded so that there would be room in the case of spring flood events or summer flooding events that more water could be stored in Murray Reservoir, get the water off the land and into these reservoirs. Paradise Creek Dry Dam is a proposed project that is and I'm going to have to let Gary explain exactly where it is, but it's in the Cypress Hills areas. Okay. And so the Paradise Creek Dry Dam would be the last project, not necessarily the last project in order of getting them done. It's just the way they're on the paper. The Horsefly Regional Emergency Spillway was chosen as the first project of the 7 projects outlined because the technical committee, which is members of staff of all the partners that are involved in the project. They're the ones that thought that project would give the most benefit to the whole region versus any of the others, and I'm not sure where we're going to go next as far as the next project, but Horsefly was picked first because it provided the biggest bang for the buck over the whole region. The next slide is a list of the partners that are in part of this project and have been since this started. I think back in about 2013, we've had these representatives around the table from all of these partners. St. Mary River Irrigation District, the Town of Tabor, the MD of Tabor, the Town of Coaldale, Lethbridge County, County of 40 Mile, Cypress County, and the City of Medicine Hat. And it really shows a lot of cooperation, regional cooperation from all of our partners to get as far as we've gotten this far. And we're hoping that through a governance structure that Gary is going to speak to in a few minutes, we hope to keep this group together because we believe that Collaborative and regional partnerships and projects like this will are more likely to receive provincial and federal government funding going into the future. And we have received a lot of funding from the provincial government as well as the federal government through different programs, ISIP, DMAF, Disaster Mitigation Adaptation Funding, and Industry Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, as well as ACRP, and what's the other provincial one, Arliss, that we've gotten money through?
It just references an EPA mitigation, flooding mitigation grant. It was kind of a one-time contribution.
But we believe that working together regionally, we're more likely to get funding for projects like this than if each municipality was working on its own. So what are our next steps? We've been working on the formal development of a government entity to advocate for and support implementation of the remaining projects. The Regional Drainage Committee is seeking long-term commitment and participation in this regional initiative, and we believe that there is many benefits to be had for this county, Cypress County, by being part of this. And we're going to let Gary talk now on the governance structure.
Right, while they transition, with respect to those next steps that Councillor Harris just mentioned, quite candidly, the council that's before us today is the reason why we're pursuing those next steps with respect to establishing and governing some sort of governing entity that ensures participation from all partners. So just I think that's notable in terms of the audience that we're in front of today.
Okay.
Gary will repeat what I said.
Yeah, he took my thunder anyway, so I muted his button while he was talking. Actually, well, let's start with that picture that you had up earlier, the one from this book here, the Seawall book that was did a report on water basins in and around our county, around our area here in Medicine Hat. So they're located right here in Medicine Hat, and they did this report back in 2011. This picture here, if you take a look at it, kind of shows the significance of what we're trying to do to this area. This here is the watershed of the Seven Persons Creek. And if you just take your cursor straight up, you'll see by the number 3 highway there, bring your yeah, there's Bow Island right there. And then if you bring that further west and you come down, you'll see the road, the highway there, the 885, or 879, I guess. That's the one that goes out to Foremost. So that kind of gives you an idea how far you are. And just the bottom edge of that, you'll see Highway 61 on the bottom. So that's Miniberries there. So that just gives you an idea on how big this watershed is coming through to Seven Persons Creek. There's Murray Lake there. So all that water, when it melts, comes around that direction. And it just kind of gives you an idea on how things, how big that area is that we're talking, how much is it impacted by what we're trying to do here. Just for reference, up by there's that 3 just above on that little creek there. Right about there, or just a little bit back, is the Seven Persons Dam. When we had the flooding back in 2011 in Cypress County, the Cypress County declared a state of an emergency. That creek there was flooding, and 41 properties were given evacuation orders. That little dam there did breach, Seven Persons Dam. Silver Lake is also another name for it. That used to be part of our works at SM, and when I say our, I'm going to be talking on behalf of SM because it's an old habit I have being from there. But we don't use that anymore, but that did breach, and there was some flooding coming down that creek. The other thing that's along that Seven Persons Creek was we have 3 golf courses further in. We've got the desert bloom, we've got cottonwood, and we've got par 3. And during this flooding event, they all suffered damage to that. If you just come up by Murray Lake, wording there, and just right a little bit further over, you'll see there's a coulee there. That's the Paradise Creek. So that's about where that dry dam would be situated. When we had that flooding in 2011, we had flows not only coming into Seven Persons, into Murray Lake and eventually Seven Persons Creek from the Pagam, from the below, but we also had a big torrential flood come through the Paradise there. And that joins Seven Persons Creek right about where the old hay plant is, if you kind of know that area. So those are the two areas we're talking about in your region right now. Also, just as reference, the Sauter Dam spillway that we did, that was, we've got that one completed, and that was right on the edge of your county. But what it did is it safetied that spill water coming from that direction, entering into the county. So it alleviates that water and lets it go down to the river so that it doesn't come into the county and do extra damage that way. Excuse me. The other thing too, that just for information wise, 2010, the year previous to that, Medicine Hat did have another flood come around on the out of the Cypress Hills, and it came around from the other side. Yep, that's the Ross Creek side, and there was a reported $54 million damage done in Medicine Hat when that flood came through. So 2 major events in that watershed within 2 years. So you know, this isn't a 1 in 100 flood anymore. You know, when you see stuff like that, it can happen anytime. 2018 was another flood, and we worked on that main canal between 40 Mile and Sauter to get that water opened up too. So the other one that comes to mind in 2010, we also had a flood up in Lethbridge, where we suffered $3 million damage to the infrastructure of St. Mary's, and we were able to. The county did have a state of emergency, and we were able to get disaster funding to help fix up the canal after that event. So these, I guess my message is that these events can happen anywhere. They can be significant, and they can be, you know, they can come fast and more often than you think. So that's just a bit of a background to see, you know, what we're talking about here and what we're trying to achieve. So then I'll switch over to the presentation that I'd want to talk about. So Meryl talked mostly about what we've done in the past, and I'm here today to kind of talk about what we're doing now and what we're going to what we've built and what we're going to achieve here in the next year. So we've got a vision here, a governing entity that we've proposed to for the group. This came at basically, as Arlo said, this is at the request of Cypress County, because their funding that they were willing to provide as per their motions requested that everybody stayed in until all the projects were done until the end. So we had to build a governance system that would keep everyone involved, included, and until we got all 7 projects finished. So you're a big reason why we've got this on the table here today, and we were able to use that leverage to get this done And I think we've got a document here that everybody's felt comfortable to sign, and I'll walk through that with you a little bit. So this entity is to become an advocating body and a project implementation body. It's partnering with SMRID and the municipalities. It identifies and solidifies long-term timelines to ensure completion of all 7 projects. We want to ensure that the final construction is something that SMRD can use, as they will be taking on operations and maintenance of this after it's completed. Is to ensure financial structure and that the expenditures are significant, and that they achieve the full construction build-out on time and on budget. So when we started, we had the MD at Tabor apply for a grant and received a grant from the Alberta Community Partnerships grant. We hired WaterSmart to facilitate workshop-style discussions. We started those discussions in April of 2023 with our first workshops, and then at those workshops we had both administrative and elected officials working alongside. And we had them from each of the municipal partners in the irrigation districts. Our last workshop was of January 2024, so last year around this time we finished up on this. And then so what did we do at those workshops? We jointly drafted an agreement, and we addressed the concerns as we reviewed feedback from our partners, and we made some edits. We have some exciting edits here. Probably since the last time we talked to you, we came up with a few things from the request of the partners involved. We have now gone to a fixed pledge, fixed amount of funds asked, with a 2% inflation rate that ties back to the 2023 cost. Where everybody got nervous is when we had the inflation of the 2023 discussion. Everybody thought this thing was going to be a runaway on us, and so we instead of trying to do a percentage of the grants asked for, we're going to a style where we just pledge the monies. You'll see the monies there that we're asking, and then we go look for the grant funding to get the projects completed. We've got the second portion that that I alluded to earlier. We've asked SMRD to come forward with all the maintenance costs in the future, so there's no risk there to your counties and your councils into the future that you're tying something to these funds that's going to be a runaway. These are hard numbers that we propose, and this is all we ask for. And the other part of this agreement is that these funds remain with you until called on. We give you this schedule just so you can do some budgeting on your side, but they're hard numbers that you can use, and this is what you can expect. If we don't get the projects funded, if we don't find the grants for them, we won't be asking for your funds until we find that grant funding to match the projects. So, so I'm just going to jump away here. I've kind of run from memory here and got off my script a little bit, but you can, yeah, there's probably a good one to be. So, so the partners, the partners are defined as those who have contributed or are contractual committed to the provincial funding to provide financial contribution to the projects. All partners are represented in this entity. Thank you. The need we need the entity to be formalized and operate in a timely manner. We will execute the remaining projects existing in the project implementation plan. 2 projects will be executed by SM. One is already complete, the solder chute, as we talked about. SM's spent close to 12 million in that in the build, and then securing that dam with an extra toe on the bottom. The Chin Reservoir, we're working on that. They've been working on that diligently. They're on that regulatory process right now. We're about 3 years into that. We did do a replacement last year of the inlet canal. There's if you're wanting to go to a website, there's documentation of that, so you can follow along if you feel like you'd like to. So that's the inlets into the Chin Dam. So that'll give us more capacity out of the main canal and get more water into Chin. So that's been built and will come in this spring. So there's going to be a conduit on the west dam that we need to rebuild, and that was built back in the 50s. So we're taking that on, and that's going to be part of that new design. We will be building a new east dam about 5 miles further east, and then we also will be raising the whole lake, so we will be needing cooperation from Alberta Transportation to redo the bridge across the dam there on that side. That'd be Highway 36 bridge. We got the committee is currently in the process of constructing the Horsefly Regional Spillway, and Merrill had talked about that. The entity would end once these projects are complete, and I'll just say, unless it becomes a useful tool, because there's already been ideas of maybe using this entity in trying to get potable water out to different regions and or wastewater. So if we have that collaboration and we're seeing success, this could turn into a different entity that could be useful into the future. So we're hoping that we can lead by example on that. So then we'll go to the governance model. Maybe just down one there. Oh, it's not in there. Okay, so sorry. Financials contribution then. Yeah, I just see it up there. We've got to run ahead then to the numbers, please. Or back with the numbers were. One more. Okay, so this is what we talked about earlier. So as you can see here, the 140, 140,000 per partner, another $5,000 for the administration fee per year, so it'll be 145 or 6, depending if you just average up. But the important thing here on this slide is to show the equal percentage throughout all the partners, and this is actually less of a percentage of the first ask of horsefly to the 4 major counties. But what it has done, it has brought the percentage up on Coaldale and Tabor, smaller entities, but at the same time willing to participate because they see the importance of this project.
When we did the horsefly project funding, there was a lot of discussion who should pay what, et cetera, et cetera. And back when we started with horsefly, it was agreed that the municipalities would take on 15%, the towns would take on 10%, and the city 5%. So what Arliss's group has done on the administrative side, when they got together, they just said, are we partners or are we not partners? And the decision or the discussion surrounded, let's all be equal partners, and that's why it's 14.29% instead of 15, 10, and 5, is that group, Arliss's group, said, let's just be partners. And then that way, everybody's paying the exact same thing, everybody's getting benefits out of this program, out of these projects, so let's just all be partners rather than dividing it 15, 10, and 5%. And like I said, that brings up, like I said, the city of Medicine Hat would have paid 5%, and now they're at 14.29, just like we were asking 15% from the Cypress County, and now you're at 14.29. So everybody's paying the same thing. All the partners are in it equal now, and that it just makes it easier.
Is everybody still in from the original group? I thought there was more than 7 people involved, or 7 areas.
We have letters of commitment from all of our partners, except for one. We've made this presentation to the City of Medicine Hat, and in December, they made a motion to come in and be a partner on part of this. One that is still outstanding, and we still have the intent to go and visit them again, is the County 40 Mile. They're the only ones that are still sitting on the edge, and we haven't got a definite commitment from them yet.
We have visited them, and there's been some changes from their concerns. That they're the ones that push for the maintenance on the main canal for SM to do, so we did get that done. We also got a hard number since we visited with them last, to be able to budget and not have those runaway costs for future councils to worry about.
Was the city of Lethbridge involved in the beginning?
The city of Lethbridge has never been involved. They won't take our meetings. We had one good meeting with the current mayor, and he knew the issue, and he knew the benefits to their city. Of course, as you all know, they're kind of in the middle of that exhibition thing right now, so it was a bad time to maybe talk to them until they get that. I will tell you that we have had discussions with MLAs around their area that want them to be part of this initiative. So I think once we have it signed, we haven't given up on the hope to have those meetings and have maybe a bit of pressure from the MLAs to help us get them included in that, and then these percentages would go down. One thing about this with Medicine Hat, when we got them on board, they agreed to come back with their original contribution to horsefly spillway also. So they've been, as if they were in from the beginning, they'll provide the funding asked for from them as partners as they've been along with us the whole time. So they agreed to do that and are willing to see this be completed to the end.
So as Gary mentioned earlier, when you're committing the $145,000 a year plus 2% inflation over the years, just so that it gives you guys a number that you can budget annually. You know that your contribution is going to be $145,000 plus 2% every year. ending up at about 212,000 contribution in year 20. And that money gets to stick in your bank account until this committee calls for it. And then we'd only call for it once the project has been tendered and the tender has been awarded. And that's when your municipal contribution would be required.
And we'd only tender if we get the grant funding.
And yeah, we don't go ahead with any project that we don't have the money for. And it takes a lot of time on administration's behalf to apply for grants and those sort of things, but that's where we got to, that's where we are today, is we got grant funding from the two different levels of government and our municipalities and the SMRID to start the Horsefly project. And like I said, I'm not sure which one is going to be next. That we've kind of left that up to the technical committee to decide which is the next most beneficial project to start with. But until we have the grant funding in place, we don't tender a project, and we don't have to make your contribution. But you know that based on today's numbers, you would be looking at 145,882 plus 2% interest, or inflation, I should say, each year as your contribution when the time comes that we actually call for the money.
So yeah, if you move up a slide that or two, it
Got
shows.
another question from somebody here.
No.
To the chair, so you talk about the grant funding. I was just kind of curious, what kind of percentage are you looking for when it comes to the grant funding, like to be involved? I mean, to make it go forward.
Well, again, we're not proposing this as a percentage. We're proposing it as more of a pledge, and then we go look for the grant funding to finish it. So this is your hard number here. This is your ask. Scroll up. No, the way you're going is good. One more. Right there. So that shows you how the inflationary part of it works. That's the number that inflates in 20 years. But this is your only ask. Then we go looking for federal and provincial funding to fill the gap to the, so that's what I mean by a pledge. There is no more money asking here.
I understand that, but I'm just curious of what grant are you looking for to even carry on, start the project with? Like, I mean, are you hoping to get 20% of it or 10% of the total cost, or I'm not sure if you understand what I mean, but.
I think I understand. I mean, as always, the goal would be to get as much as possible. I think generally lots of the provincial programs are a 70-30 cost share breakdown. I can speak only specifically to the Horsefly Spillway project, and we're sitting at about a 80 to 85% grant funding level there, so much better than the 70-30, but we've been able to achieve, it's about 82 or 83% grant funding, and that's a combination of federal grant and provincial grant.
They also, we're going to get to the amount that SM is contributing to this, but they're also now allowing the purchase price of the land to be part of our pledge. So that'll help. The initial grants weren't that way, but now they're letting us do that. And I think we were able to stack a few grants too to bring that percentage up.
Robin?
Thank you. I just need clarity on one thing with the pledge system. I like that. That sounds great. What I'm trying to understand, because I don't believe that this is a 20-year build out. So how does the pledge part work with, essentially if you get the grant funding that you're looking for, but it happens sooner than the pledge is coming in, how does that reconcile?
The idea was that we could get these all done in a 20-year time frame. We were hoping to do one every 5 years. And like the pumping station, pumping inlet stations, that's a small one. It's like $2 million. That one's not a big deal. Probably Murray would be the next biggest. I don't know which is the most expensive after the one we're actually working on. But the timeline, we were hoping to do one project within a 5-year time frame. And so hopefully, by putting 20 years on this, that's, like I said, that's what your contribution is, and we just have to fundraise and to make up the rest. I think that, if I remember correctly, DMAF would do 40% of the project, Arlos, and the ACRP was, it worked out to about 73% grant funding, and we've been able to get more, actually, than the 73%. I think you said we're about 83% right now on the horsefly project, but what we're trying to do here is solidify what the ask is for municipalities, and then it's up to the committee, whoever that committee is, in the future to get the to do the fundraising with the provincial and federal government to make up the rest.
I think the other thing to remember is in the agreement, you are at the table. So you can regulate how fast you want to go on this too, right? So it's not necessarily that, because you are part of the committee, you know, in there too. So it'll be the appetite of the people involved, but this was trying to give a number so that people could go out and budget.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions at this point?
So again, we took the 2023 numbers. Now these would have had quite an inflation jump when we, you know, through COVID and all the rest, but we took this as a hard number then and add the 2% to it. So we're pretty sure we can sell this to the feds and the province as a pledge and be able to get the grant funding to get these projects completed. Go to the next slide then. So this is the SM financial contribution. They did complete the solder spillway. There was another $2 million they put on top of that to get that project done. The tune expansion, it'll be well over that now as we got into the regulatory side of things and understand the different, the East End, when they started doing the exploratory drilling to see what they're building on, it's going to be quite a feat to get that dam built. When we did the initial phase one of Horsefly Spillway, we still hadn't had City Madison had on board, and we kind of could see things falling apart with all our partners. So I went back to SM and asked for this $1.5 million to get that project finished. So they did that, and they're also doing the land purchases, which is over $1 million on that. They're working on right now phase 2, which is the most congested, from the Rogers Sugar south now to the Horsefly Dam there. So they also, as I've told you before, they're working on their commitment to do the cost to do the to upkeep on the canal, the operating costs, and they're estimating that to be about $250 a year. The master agreement does not propose an instance for large-scale emergencies, disaster causing significant infrastructure damage. So this is talking to when we ask the counties to help us to go look for disaster funding from the province when we have a major wreck on our main canals. So much the same way would be for the spillway then too. Okay, so go to the next slide, please. Okay, so we've got the plan now, and we've gone around to all our partners except for 40 Mile. We got to get back to them again. We've got the master agreement, and we'll have the implementation plan to have the preliminary timeline. And then, like I said, roughly 20 years. The plan is to be amended by the MCC once formalized. So from that, we're moving from the planning stage then into the implementation side. The capital contributions request for the project approximately every 5 years. So, as we talked about here before. So, okay, the next slide, please. Once the agreement has been reviewed and signed, which again we're very close, the governing entity will be established. Establishing the entity will require approval by all councils and partners. So again, that's why we're here, and that's why we've done the trip to all the partners and explained the presentation. Any questions?
Okay, yeah, I do believe there's some questions here. Robin, you had some more questions?
I did. Thank you, gentlemen. As I listened to the presentation and as I think back over the last few years, there's been a lot of different, a lot of different information that's come in, and I recognize that we are dealing with a liability, the water management, the flood mitigation. I see that as an insurance policy, and my position has always been that I can see why Tabor, and I can see why a lot of those communities that are in that immediate vicinity where you're trying to mitigate the flooding, but you're also able to take full advantage of the water capacity and the potential of utilizing that for the plants. I think, and Meryl, when you gave the list of some of the different businesses and industries that are out there, all of them were in that area, not necessarily down here. And so I'm not blind to our potential and our where we want to go down here, but I definitely see Cypress County as being 10, 15 years behind where kind of that food corridor in that Tabor, Coaldale, Lethbridge area is, and where we want to be able to go. So the challenge that I have is I want to be able to communicate to our residents, my residents, that in supporting this, that we aren't only ticking off the box on trying to manage and mitigate risk on flooding, which is largely happening upstream, but that we're also able to provide them for this equal partnership that we're in some form of opportunity, which I recognize is provided through SMEARD, and you're not standing here representing SMEARD currently, but making sure that we have the ability to benefit and to be able to utilize some of this additional water storage. And so early on, that was kind of a part of the conversation. I'm just curious to know where we're at with that now. Are we still in a position where SMEARD has maybe communicated what kind of potential capacity we'd be looking at and what that would translate to as far as like Cypress County and potential for more irrigation down the road? Or are we, as kind of the last guys on the line, kind of in the partnership more from a pure risk mitigation standpoint? It's a pretty direct question, but I need to know kind of where we're at with that.
Right. Thanks for the question. As you know, I'm an advocate to bringing industry in agri-food to Medicine Hat, to Cypress County. And I see this as being twofold in the fact that the flood proofing that we're doing here, or the mitigation that we're doing here to help make sure that those infrastructures remain in place so that industry can come to Cypress County and be assured that that water is available and won't be interrupted. Secondfold to that is the Murray Lake in particular will be bigger to hold more drainage water, but there will be times that it could hold more water that won't be wasted when we have rain events and all the sprinklers shut down and there's a place for that water to be stored and be used by us down this way. This ties, this ties in perhaps with the discussion we're having on the Cabin Lake discussion and putting more acres out that direction. If that happens, it becomes all of St. Mary in one, and the expansion acres are there to be used everywhere. So if there's opportunities down here, it certainly can be used for that. Second to that, I have had conversations with the agri-food industry, pointing to 7 Persons in particular, right by Murray Lake as a great place to set up shop because of the railway, because of the lake itself for winter water and use to run a plant much like the ones along Highway 3. Potential 4-lane, actually in 3 directions, east, west, and north from here. So I have been, that's my vision, I guess, to see for, and what I've put out there to people interested in coming here to set up shop for that agri-food industry. Second to that, Cypress County is a big county, and if people are going to, the acres used there, there's many acres of grassland but this potential corridor is where your agri-food hub is going to be, and the potential growth is right here too. So it will affect all of those acres, but the tax benefit coming from that that growth will come from that corridor right in through here. So if that answers your question. Merrill had some good discussions too. Yeah.
About 19 months ago, I was invited to participate in a tour of southern Alberta with a major food production company out of the United States. And one of the things that absolutely impressed them, they were very impressed with the irrigation infrastructure that is in place in southern Alberta. They just couldn't comprehend what we're doing in southern Alberta with irrigation, putting pipeline in the ground to save water, use less water by pipelines versus open ditches, et cetera, But they were really impressed with what we're doing with this project, with these projects to protect that infrastructure so that year after year, if you have a bad storm event in the Cypress Hills or the MD at Tabor, we've got a way, or we're developing a way to make sure that infrastructure doesn't get washed away for a season. And that was really, they were really impressed with that. Will Cypress County benefit from a major food processor coming to southern Alberta? I don't think it can all be in the Lethbridge area. It can't. It's got to start coming this way, I believe, because there's lots of land available for high-value crops down here that in, let's just say Tabor, I'll pick on Tabor because that's where I'm from. It's already, I'm not going to say totally saturated for, like, let's say potatoes, for example, but there could be a lot more of it down here if they chose to come here, as Gary said, in, for example, a 7 Persons region around that lake. So I think that the benefits of the agri-food processing corridor that MLA Hunter is working so hard on, the benefits will come this way. But like I said, from my experience, this company was really impressed with what we're doing with irrigation, but the fact that we're doing these projects to protect that infrastructure really impressed them.
Shane?
Through all your studies, because when you come down into Cypress County, our irrigation funnels down, our acreages. With the expansion of Murray Lake, has there ever been how many more acres we could actually irrigate? Because when you go south, it rises. We got the river to the north, we're confined on the amount of acres, any extra acres that we can put into irrigation. Because we need extra acres to bring that agri-food business this way. Otherwise, it is going to stay to the west because your economics of trucking and that, because we narrow down our acreages, our amount of acres irrigated here, that it will stay to the west because it's just based on trucking and access, because you're coming out of Newell down with products and that, so it's really tough. So have, on any of them studies, have they said how many more acres of irrigation we could have with the expansion of Murray Lake?
I don't know about the studies, but what I will tell you, if you go into Tabor and into Chin, that they're not scared to push water, and they'll push water and then they'll put it in a reservoir and then they'll push it out again. When you're seeing that kind of return per acre, you know, that you see from the row crops of potatoes and sugar beets, they're not scared to spend the money to do it. You know, you and I, we're not used to it because we grow hay and we have the feedlots, you know, but that industry, those farmers, they, you know, I know of 3 that have bought land down here in the last year. So I'm very confident that they have no problem pushing water further to the south to get up, and the Cabin Lake project, I think, is 3,000 acres added, you know, in itself. So depending on how we look at it, I don't think there's an issue there. If there's a way, they'll find it and they'll make it work.
Any other questions? Keith?
What's your time frame in your estimate of getting, seeing a benefit of this part of the, do we have to wait the 15 years to the 20 years to see the benefit? Or are we going to see a benefit sooner than the tail end of the project?
Well, I think I was involved with the plant coming into Lethbridge, the potato plant there, and their council had put in place the place to put it, and had everything arranged for them to come. So I think any time that you move forward with inviting people to come to build stuff, it's a good thing. Like it promotes that confidence in your area to come and invest. So I think, quite honestly, is if you're looking like you're inviting them to come, they're going to come and build, and they're going to bring with them all those jobs and all the acres that could potentially feed that plant or that industry. So I think you got to look at it more that you have to put the invite out first and then have them come, rather than say, well, when will they come, and we'll do it when they come. They won't come.
Any other questions? I didn't ask you. Go ahead.
Which is why I'm not speaking. So, no, I just wanted to make sure that Councillor Kuntz, if I can see that correctly, his question was, I guess, considered in the right context. Were you specifically asking about the projects identified in what we've reviewed today, and whether this area will see the benefit of those sooner than the 20-year build-out? Is that what you're asking? Okay. I think the answer to that is very driven by the members of that committee, right? So if you have strong representation, i.e. City of Medicine Hat is on board now, closely I think Cypress County is. If you have that presence, I think you would see a lot quicker return in those projects being built here on the east end. again, that's a very that's me being speculative because I'm not an elected official. I don't sit on that committee. But I think being part of it will inform or better answer your question in terms of how quickly you can realize the benefit of it. Sauter Reservoir was a project that wasn't contemplated to be, Sauter Spillway was a project that wasn't contemplated to be done as quick as it was, but it was done, and that benefits this end of the project or this end of the region a lot quicker than expected. So that's one project that has been completed, but you look at Murray or Paradise, those two particular projects I think have a good case to be pushed up in the queue once this partnership is actually formalized. So
Okay.
I hope that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, actually, your last statement kind of helped put that in perspective.
Again, we've got what we call the main committee, which is the elected officials, and Arlos kind of has a loose committee of the administrative officials, and then the technical committee is like engineers and public works people from each member community or municipality, and like I said, they're the ones that recommended, I guess, to the main committee that Horsefly Spillway be done first. And so by having Cypress County having somebody on that technical committee, they can voice their opinion that, no, this project needs to be done next. Or, like I said, it was a recommendation to the main committee quite a number of years ago that Horsefly be done first. And that came from the technical committee.
Okay. So it's really us getting involved on the different aspects of planning this.
Yeah, like I believe Dan and Richard have attended in the past some of the committee meetings. I don't know about on the technical side, but like I said, each of the municipalities, each town and municipality has had somebody representing their municipality at the technical committee working group that hashes out some of the details before it comes to the main committee for approval. Okay. Does that make sense?
Richard and then Robin.
I've always supported this project, and I like it the way it's been coming along. There's lots more to do things besides irrigatable acres. I look at vertical growing because of the greenhouse that's in my area. Last count, I think they employed 365 people. Lots of spin-off daily trucking out of there that goes to Red Hat. Red Hat employs a bunch of people. I was told there's 11 trucks a day leaving Red Hat to go to Edmonton, besides all the other places. So you look at the spin-off there, and that's just Big Marble being my neighbor. But if the infrastructure is lost upstream, they are done, because they totally rely on the water that they're getting for irrigation. And they have big ponds, but I remember talking to Grant Hunter and saying, well, it's great to, kind of expand the acreage there, but don't forget about us here, that there's such a thing as that. And who knows, there could be some more plans coming up eventually for vertical growing, and I think we need to be ready for that, especially when we want to buy Canadian. So I think we got to really, really take a look at this and also be part of it. So thanks.
Robin.
Thanks. This is my last question because I'm getting hungry. So you mentioned about governance, and you mentioned about the main committee and the technical committee. I don't think we went through our organizational meeting here in October, and I don't believe that we have somebody on the committee. We may have participated early on, kind of as an ad hoc type of a thing. But what is the actual structure of those committees? Is it that every member has one person that sits on that main committee? Is it two people? How does it work from a governance standpoint?
Right at this point in time, it's kind of loose.
Okay.
Like our municipality has 3 people that attend, not necessarily they all vote, but technically maybe only one of us should. It's kind of loose right now, and that's why we're trying to get it into an actual formal, everybody would have one person there or 2 people there, whatever the number might be, so that everybody's got an equal vote. like I said, that's kind of the main committee, like I said, and then the technical one is just, like I said, the city engineer, the municipal, director of municipal infrastructure, whatever, sit on a committee, and like I said, they work out, hash out some of the, I don't know, they had a meeting the other day, we're still working on the horsefly one, and this technical committee kind of make sure the engineering is done and the project management is done, and that way the main committee doesn't have to do it on a day-by-day basis. We have a former employee of the MD of Tabor that's kind of the project manager for the horsefly project, and I know he's looking to be retired. He retired 5 years ago, but we're still carrying him on, and we're just trying to get this formalized so that it's not an ad hoc group, because really, that's really all it is right now, is
Well, and you need an army right now, right? You've got your practical side with it, which is your operations, but if you're talking about the completion of the project being limited to fundraising, you need to have that committee doing work in Edmonton, you need to have that committee doing work in Ottawa. You have to be, especially with a change of government coming soon. To me, that would be a missed opportunity, and similar to Lethbridge, taking their team Lethbridge and going up to Edmonton, I see this committee needing to do something similar to that. If it's going to be tying it, it's just like you said, you got to invite, you actually have to go and find the funds. It's not just, there aren't grants saying, hey, there's a spillway grant that's available right now.
So the governance structure that Gary's talked about is formalizing what we've been doing ad hoc for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And basically, when you sign up, you're signed up. And the exit clause is you pay what you would have paid if you had stayed in, sort of a thing. But it's formalizing it so that it's not just an ad hoc group of elected officials or technical committee that get together and move this thing along. And that's really the way it's been done now is Gary and I we're the co-chairs, and every municipality has somebody or one, the CAO comes and the elected official come, the elected officials vote, and that sort of stuff, but we're trying to formalize it so that this group can stay together to get all the projects done, and if it works after that to carry on doing other projects, so be it. Otherwise, at the end, when the projects are all done, this thing will fold.
Okay.
I just have an important point that I missed there as I went way ahead of myself and got flustered and had to calm myself down, but I just wanted to point out, because you'll be going through this agreement or you'll be reading it, and the Paradise Dam is a bit of a different animal in that it's not part of the SM infrastructure. And in the agreement that we have presented now, it has that we will advocate for the province to take on that structure once it's built and do the maintenance and own it. And that's nothing new. The province does own dams all over the province. So just wanted to point that out, that because if you come upon that in reading it, you'll find that point and wonder why that's been changed. But it's just that it's not something that SM is involved with. So we're simply substituting the province for that.
In closing, like I said, thank you for the opportunity to come and refresh and remind you what we're doing and bring you up to speed as to what's actually happening. We invite the Cypress County to be part of this. We think that there's benefits for the Cypress County to be part of this group. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to come and visit with you today.
Have a great day, guys. Thank you very much. I will adjourn for lunch. No. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. So I need a motion to take it off the table, correct? Wayne is making motion to take. Sure. What the heck was it? Dust control off. Al?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve and members of the council. It occurs to me As I was listening to the discussion this morning regarding the dust control policy, our current dust control policy hasn't been looked at in many years, and I think we are making motions on fixing bits and pieces of it without a comprehensive review. It would be my recommendation that council would direct administration to suspend the current policy and complete a comprehensive review of the county dust control policy and bylaws and return recommendations to council by April the 1st, which would give us plenty of time to prepare for the 2025 dust control season.
I will change my motion to that, yes.
Okay. Yeah. He likes him, Rob. Okay, everybody's good with that? Oh, first we got to vote on bringing it off the table, correct? I don't have to bring it back? Okay. So Dustin's changes his motion to what's on the screen.
The motion as it reads is that council direct administration to complete a comprehensive review of the Cypress County dust control policies and bylaws and return recommendations to council by April 1st, 2025. That's the first meeting in April.
Any questions? Not seeing any? Vote. So he had to run into town for something. I don't know if it was an appointment or what it was. Yeah. 7.3.1, Mr. Taves.
Thank you, Mr. Reeve, and through the chair, we're going to have Supervisor Hubbard walk us through the master rates.
Good afternoon. Through the chair, master rates bylaw, or the master rates bylaw is before you. Council is being presented the 2025 master rates schedule. The rate schedule is presented annually and establishes all rates for applicable services available, including administrative, agriculture, and public works and utility services. The general independent rate target is to achieve cost recovery, with many rates calculated based on a 6.5% markup. I'm not going to go read the whole thing. The proposed rates that are before you are aligned with the 2025 to 2029 approved budget, and I will take any questions associated with it.
And on,
Steve wants to say something.
and just one amendment to the schedule. I would recommend in the motion that we strike the calcium chloride for 1462 from that schedule, as that'll be coming back to council.
So since you're going to say it, do you want to move it?
Considering that's what I was going to say, I will move it.
Genius idea.
Yeah, heck of an idea.
Okay, so Blaine's moving the master rates with the removal of, what number was that? 14?
With the removal of calcium chloride 1462 in the Schedule A.
1462. Okay, floor is open. Does anybody have any questions on these? They are what they are. We're doing cost recovery and not much we can do about it.
Just under the gravel at $12 a ton, is that still pretty, giving us enough room with the cost of how things are going, crushing and everything? Is that still adequate?
Through the chair. Yes, that's about right. We're seeing in quite a bit lower in our production costs, so it's a nice balance area for this year.
first. It stays in because,
Take that whole thing out.
yeah, no, that'll stay in because it's already a motion that it has to go in. But they're gonna bring it back on the first. Councillor Brost was asking about the rates going up on 475. But that's already a motion for the farmstead residents. Yeah, so that'll stay in, that's not coming out. The only one coming out is the calcium chloride 1462. Any other questions on it? Vote. It's carried. 7.3.2. Oh,
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, if council would like, they could do all three readings today or second reading, or accept first, and we can certainly bring it back.
my bad.
No, it's all good.
No,
So
that
recommended
was first
motion.
reading that Blaine did. Did somebody do second reading? Keith's doing second reading.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if we end up bringing back the bylaw, do we just make an amendment to the bylaw after the fact once we receive the, we would just do 3 readings to make an amendment to the bylaw later anyways? Okay.
But this will activate everything they need right now. Yeah. Keith is moving second. Don't see any questions. Vote. That's carried. Robin's moving to have third. Vote. That's carried. And Michelle is moving third. Vote. That's carried. There you go. Sorry about that. That was my 7.3.2. Mr. Taves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're happy to be able to present the vehicle and equipment disposal list to council. Council would have received a sneak peek at this while approving the vehicle and fleet equipment replacement plan. And from that time, we had promised council that we would bring it back early in 2025, and here we are. So Mr. Hubbard will be presenting the RFD, and Mr. Schmaltz is here for some technical discussion on the units as they come up.
Through the chair, so as Steve said, upon approval of the Cypress by Cypress City Council, sorry, I'm dating myself now. The capital replacement plan of 2025 to 2029. Attached is the 2024 vehicle equipment listing of units available for disposal. While various units are recommended for disposal, the administration has included a recommendation of units to be retained and further utilized internally. So if you turn to the disposal list, we have two tractors, one John Deere, one Massey, 4 graders, and the 4 graders have been replaced by new units that we received in 2024. Some extrication tools. These are tools that have been replaced with the fire service that they bought in 2024 as approved in the 2024 budget. And also an HP Design Jet T1200 GIS printer.
Lloyd?
Yeah, it was just the other day, 2 days ago, I got a phone call about our graders. When are they going to auction? Do you know what day, roughly?
I don't have an exact date yet. There are auctions that we can look at now. We just have to decide which auction house we're going to go to and go into one of the spring ones. The ones that auction houses we've been in contact with now have quite a bit of construction equipment in them, but it is the season to kind of get those in there, and they're just sitting here. So we just have to make that decision, but it should be right away here in spring.
Okay, so you got a month or two, right? Okay, thank you.
Blake? Yeah, those gravel trucks, just how many miles are on those gravel trucks? The two Western Stars. Or kilometers, I guess I should.
Do you have something else?
Just to add to that, do you dispose of them by, based on kilometers or hours? And that's just, because the ratepayer is going to ask, okay?
It's mainly hours, but both are factored in.
So the, excuse me, through the chair, the mileage on those units is something our fleet or Public Works we can get that information. Do you think we could? Yeah, so we can bring that information at some point later on in the day here to council, if that's okay.
And are those just chassis, or are they the full box and everything on?
It's the full unit, the snow equipment as well, the box, everything.
Everything. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I forgot to get the motion.
I'd like to hold off on voting on this until I know the kilometers and that on these Western Stars. No, it makes a big, to me, it's important.
Dustin?
We've already replaced these trucks though. So these would be assets that have already been replaced. That's why they would be going up for auction. So essentially, we would have voted on this last year to replace these trucks, and they would have been replaced, and now this is just the disposal list that we're seeing now.
So through the chair, the Western Stars were on the previous disposal list back in 2022 when it was proposed to buy the trucks at that time. So they are currently on basically they would be disposed when the replacements come. We have 3 replacements trucks coming sometime during this year. So that is the reason why it is the 3 trucks are in the second box fleet available for disposal upon replacement. So they have already been approved for replacement. It was just we've been hanging on to them because we haven't received all the trucks yet.
Okay. I think why everybody's asking the questions is because we were selling those with such low mileage on them at one time. We were trying to run them up higher. I see it's 10 years old now, but we were selling them every 5 years and they had barely any miles on. But part of the question that's coming up is that do we need them anywhere else if they're really low mileage? That's why the question's being asked. Or as a spare truck.
So the third Western Star truck has been pulled from the list, and the reason it's been pulled from the list is because it's being used by the oiling crew. It's been set up in such a way that it can take an oil tank, and so that one of the Western Stars we're holding back for that. We've just recently done a transmission rebuild on that for $20K. The assumption is that with the transmission build, that it'll extend the life 3 years.
But these ones that we're selling here, these are the ones that we can pull a box off and put a 5th wheel on. So we don't need extra trucks in the summertime for graveling, that we should be keeping them. But these are just some of the questions that have been popping around.
Yep.
Richard?
I only asked because there's a couple of ratepayers that had asked me, and I encouraged them to phone Public Works, but I don't know if it happened. So I really believe we have to stay out of it because we're going to have 9 different opinions on when we should dispose of something. Back a few years ago, I think maybe it was a situation where they were not well used. That's all been changed, and you guys have your budgets, but I do say, Shane, that everybody would have a different number as to what mileage they should be disposed of, and that's why we got to stay out of it.
Okay, well, the question was asked, and you're gonna find the information, so I haven't even got the motion yet, so. No, I forgot to get a motion. You made the motion to dispose of them? Okay, so I do have a motion on the floor. Any more questions on it?
They kind of look like they know what they're doing.
Which one of them?
You know, I could, and through the chair, I could provide a little bit more information. We went through some fairly turbulent times beginning in 2020 when assets weren't available to get. So we had to put our minds towards overholding the vehicles while we waited for the new asset to arrive. So that put us out of schedule upwards of 16 months. So what we're seeing is a little bit of reworking the fleet to meet the level of service that council's determined. Also in 2020, the municipal discount went away. And so we really need to put our minds back to reworking that fleet plan. And hats off to Public Works and Trevor for being able to be a little bit more current with that plan. And we only anticipate tightening that plan up more and more. And while we have our fingers and toes crossed for the municipal discount to return, but that's kind of the state we're in. For example, the plow trucks are critical. If they go down, the snow doesn't get removed from the road. So we have to kind of balance that expectation of service with the new reality of the prices being so high to deliver that. So we're on it. It's not always pretty, but we're on it.
Shane, did you have your hand up?
The reason I brought about the Western Star because I knew we could take the box off and put a fifth wheel on haul gravel, and it was brought up to Public Works before that we have spent quite a bit of money on hiring out graveling, where they were going to do a report to see if it is warranted for another truck and trailer, add some more trucks to our fleet. So I was just wondering if it was thought of that we may end up needing one of these and just get a trailer if we already had a truck, just so we could use it during the summer months for graveling. That is why I brought it up.
Legitimate. Yep, I have a motion on the floor. So is there any more comments on? Vote. Yeah, it's carried. I don't need three on that one.
We're in good shape here. I came out of BC during a snowstorm. It is 1995 there still.
Okay, 7.4.1.
Thank you through the chair. Before you is Chief Administrative Officer Bylaw 2025-05. Administration is seeking approval for Chief Administrative Officer Bylaw 2015-35 be replaced by the new CAO Bylaw 2025-05. Bylaw 2025-05 significantly expands upon the framework established in the 2015 bylaw for the CAO. While both bylaws outline the CAO's primary role as the administrative leader and advisor to council, the new bylaw introduces more comprehensive responsibilities, explicitly tying the CAO's duties to compliance with various legislative acts. Key enhancements in the bylaw include detailed legislation process, extended powers to negotiate contracts, legal settlements, and increased accountability mechanisms. The new bylaw formalizes oversight in environmental compliance, taxation, and development agreements, reflecting a more modern and detailed approach to municipal administration. By repealing 2020 2015-35, the updated bylaw establishes a more robust, structured, and legislatively aligned governance model for the CAO's role. The mission is to provide regional leadership, responsible government, and innovative municipal services. Administration is recommending that bylaw 2025-05, being a bylaw of Cypress County to establish the position of Chief Administrative Officer, be given first reading. And as an alternative option for council, if you so choose, you may pass all 3 readings.
Okay, thank you. Dustin's moving first. Vote. That's carried. Robin's moving second. I have both heads turning different ways here. Robin's moving second. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Vote. It's carried. Michelle's moving to have third. Vote. Carried. Shane's moving third. Vote. That one's carried. Okay, we're on to 7.4.2.
Thank you through the chair. Before council is the council procedure bylaw. Administration is seeking approval for the procedure bylaw 2021-10 be replaced by the new council procedure bylaw. The current bylaw requires updating to address evolving governance needs, to incorporate modern technology practices, and provide clear and more comprehensive guidelines for efficient and transparent operations. Bylaw 2025-06 introduces significant updates emphasizing inclusivity, transparency, and detailed governance. The 25 document expands its scope to cover meeting procedures for all council-established bodies, prioritizing fairness and equality, while the 21 document focuses more on structuring council and governance and committee governance. Notable updates in the bylaw include explicit provisions for electronic participation, live streaming, and meeting recordings, reflecting modern technology's role in governance. It also strengthens guidelines for public participation, ensuring structured time limits and notification procedures, in contrast to the flexibility offered in the 2021 version. Other key differences include enhanced rules in bylaw 2025-06 for meeting scheduling, cancellations, and public notifications. The roles of the Reeve and Deputy Reeve are explicitly defined as chair and vice chair, respectively, while the 21 document uses more broader terms. Overall, the 2025 document reflects a more detailed, transparent, and technologically integrated approach to council's procedures. Administration is recommending that bylaw 2025-06, being a bylaw of Cypress County to provide for the orderly proceedings of meetings held by council and various boards, committees, and other bodies established by council, be given first reading, or as the previous bylaw, council may choose to give this bylaw all 3 readings.
Thank you. Lloyd's moving first reading. Vote. It's carried. Richard's moving second. The floor is open. Is there any questions? Or Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Reeve. I guess question for our CEO. When I was reading through and just kind of skimming over this, I wasn't too sure whether or not, because we weren't looking at both, and so I wasn't too sure whether we were kind of updating, or if it was something that was completely new. When it comes down to bringing things like technological meeting attendance virtually, and, we had some pretty good stuff around recorded meetings and, how long they were being saved online or kept for. What kind of changes have we seen on that?
So from the old bylaw to the new bylaw, there is no changes, Councillor Kirby-White. Actually, the retention of those recorded meetings and stuff is within our records and retention bylaw. So nothing changes. This more is surrounding if people wanted to submit, for instance, a public hearing that somebody isn't able to attend, that we've given provisions for them to submit their presentation electronically. This bylaw, and also it has a lot more procedures in it for council, so it's a lot more clear for them to provide a notice of motion. And basically, it more aligns with what we were currently doing. The previous bylaw was a little bit, it uses terms that we don't use anymore, and I've found, kind of doing my review of other municipalities, that a lot of these older bylaws are being brought back to be more updated to what council's actually doing.
Any other questions? Michelle?
I do have one on page 93, I think it is, meeting agendas. It said in there, if agenda is to be published, or the agenda is to be published 6 days prior to a meeting. So if that happens, right now, if we're submitting something to be on the agenda, it has to be in the Wednesday before, but according to this, it has to be in the week before. So I just wanted clarification on that. When do we have to, if we're submitting something to the agenda, when does that have to be there?
Yes, so council will notice that there is going to be a little bit of a shift. We are moving our timelines back. I would say that we're going to be publishing the agenda. For example, I usually would be publishing on Friday, but I will be publishing the agenda on Wednesday. So I can go through and highlight a couple of the date changes, but still those timelines are going to stay pretty much the same for council. Okay. But what I'll do is I'll put it in an email for some of those key dates. I just don't have them all off the top of my head at the moment, but yeah, you'll see agendas coming out a lot sooner.
I was just curious. And then I did have another comment on page 81 under application and purpose. And this could be just me and not anybody else, but all my policy committees, in there it said it talked about common sense, 2.1. And I don't think that's a term we are allowed to use anymore, is it? Because it implies that somebody doesn't have it, and we can't do things like that. Oh, my mic wasn't even on. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, on page 81. Page 81. 2.1. I know I started on 93 and then went back to 88, or 81, sorry, but I don't mind the rest of it, and it could be just a me thing. It's just that common sense term in there.
I mean, I guess they're just expanding on, the spirit of fairness and equality. I mean, if you would prefer that part be struck out of the bylaw, I'm not hung up on it one way or another. So if you don't like it in there, we could definitely change it.
I really don't care. It just, like I said, other policy committees, people have brought that forward saying that it implies that someone does not have common sense and it's a derogatory term and you can't use it anymore. So me personally, I don't care. I use the term common sense all the time, but.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
I think it should be used more often.
I'm okay saying Mr. Reeve, members of the council, just to address Councillor McKenzie's first point, we are trying to get to a place when we're using what is not going to be the second meeting in March while council is attending RMA. One of the things that happens is we are rushing with limited staff to get a package together at the last minute for every council meeting. We're trying to get ahead where, for example, the February 19th, and it won't happen yet because we haven't had that break, but we're trying to get to a point where, for example, the February 19th council meeting would already be in the can today, ready to go. there might be some minor changes to the agenda, but we're trying to get 2 weeks ahead, so we're not, in particular for the municipal clerk's office, where it's crazy the last little bit, and staff are handing in at the last minute RFDs, and councilors have last minute requests, and then, of course, the agenda has to be approved by the Reeve. We're trying to use that break in March to get 2 weeks ahead. So staff is planning, in theory, for a second meeting in March, but there will not be one, so that package will be in the can. So, the Municipal Services Office will always be 2 weeks ahead. So that if there is a problem, and somebody is sick, somebody's on vacation, we're not going to be in a panic as how we're managing that package at the last minute. And that kind of goes to the question as to, we can now, given that we will be ahead, we can publish the agenda a day or two earlier to allow both council and the public to get a little extra time to read through the package, not just the agenda, but through the whole package, because some of the packages can be quite large.
Okay, any other questions on it? Who moves second? Oh, comment, yep. I thought he was trying to vote.
No, I appreciate what you're trying to do. That would help me a lot, because sometimes you get busy, and especially, well, I'm busy all year, but sometimes there's a lot of reading, and if you attack it at night, you fall asleep several times, and you need an extra night or two to get through it. So, anyway, I like the common sense part in there. I'd say go ahead and leave it in.
And that's a little different. The packages usually keep me up at night as opposed to put me to sleep, so.
All right, second has been made. Vote. Carried. Robin's moving to have third. Vote. Shane. Lloyd's moving third. Vote. Okay, that's carried. Where are we going to? 7.4.4?
Thank you, Mr. Members of the Council. This is regarding correspondence information. You'll see that there, just for everyone's reminder, land use bylaw open house.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pending council. I think we jumped one there, didn't we? Oh, that's okay. That's your one leeway for the year.
Yeah, I don't believe there's any, no motion is required on this one. It's just more for council's information, and if there's anything that they wanted to bring light to. But these are just the ones that, that staff is still currently working on, and will come back to a future meeting. Or a committee of a whole, or,
So you want a motion receiving for information?
no.
No, okay. So, all right, then we will go to Mr. Hogan then.
Thank you. Just a reminder for council, the land use bylaw open houses, one on the 5th, tomorrow between 4 and 8 p.m., Saturday at the Urban Resource Center between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. There is a council luncheon invite to the Suffield Community Center, and an AUC update, AltaLink update and AUC update for your reading pleasure as well.
Okay. Do we need a motion on this one?
If I could just get council to maybe, if you could just straw vote or maybe decide on a date for when you'd like to go out to Suffield. Or I can send it in an email with.
I can do any date but the 21st of February. It'll be over by the 20th. It's 17th to the 19th or something.
Or would you prefer that I did it in, I mean, I guess our council meetings are getting a bit full. I know previously we did it in conjunction with a council meeting, but I don't think it's going to work. Or is that kind of tough for council? Do you want me to ask him for some more dates in April and May, maybe? When things slow down for you?
No. March 6th or 7th, because that's right before calving and that, and after that, we get into calving season, seeding, and busy time.
17th. So you have a council meeting on the 4th, then the 6th is the Thursday, the 7th is the Friday.
Well, I'd say the 7th, Friday, because if they're having fish, it's always fish on Fridays.
Sounds like common sense to me.
Just a minute, I'm gonna tell you, when's my son-in-law's meeting?
If you like, I can send it out to council in an email and you guys can, I can give you the choice of the 6th or the 7th, and then you can get back to me.
Sure, if that's what you want.
Or set it for,
Or set it today.
You guys pick.
No, it's a Friday.
May or may not be here.
I won't be, I'll be in Lethbridge. Mares and Reeves. You pick the 7th, March 7th.
No, I said Friday because Fish Fridays.
Okay, Friday, March 7th.
thank you, yeah, and then I'll just ask for a motion to accept the correspondence and items for information.
Blaine is making that motion.
Sure.
Vote. Mr. Hawk, can you vote, please?
Really?
That's carried. Reeve and council reports. Obviously, I was on holidays, so I don't have much to report. It was an expensive holiday. Dustin, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I got lots of sun and I went skiing, but I haven't done very much county stuff, so I'll pass.
Keith?
Okay, in addition to council, went to the Ag Service Board Conference in Edmonton. A lot of good speakers. Everything from kites to pigs to drones and mental health. Lots of good presenters, so I really enjoyed that conference.
I had a nice tour with our new CAO there a week and a bit ago. I had a good time, good conversations, and toured them around Ward 4, and we had a chance to go and have a peek at some of the stuff that Prairie Rose was doing over at their academy building and talk planes and all that fun stuff. I did have one phone call that came in that I wanted to run by council and see what kind of direction we want to take with it, but it's with regards to some of the elk issues that some of our ranchers out in the hills are dealing with right now. Lloyd, you listening? Because this one, I think I need to get your thoughts on this one too. So I had a call from one of the ranchers out in the Elkwater area, and you don't believe it, but just specifically though about what can the county do with regards to damages and things like that that some of the elk do. And I'm not personally familiar of any kind of precedent, although I know with the base, there's been a lot of stuff that happens out there. There's a lot of different kinds of programs that exist that deal with pests and damages that are done. And so what I mentioned to this rancher was, I'd bring it by council. I think that there's a couple of different potentials that we have. One, maybe that it goes to the Ag Service Board. I don't know if the Ag Service Board would have any kind of conversation about that. Or maybe what we do is, I can send an email to our CEO and just say, hey, listen, this is what I got. And we can perhaps look into any kind of resolutions that maybe RMA has currently to see if there's something that could be done. But to me, it was a valid concern that I mentioned I'd bring forward and kind of see where we want to go.
He was sleeping through it.
No, he was.
Oh, okay. Lloyd?
So I'm gathering this ranch is complaining about his crop or his fences?
Yeah, he said that there's already programs that exist, or the insurance that you can get if they get into your haystacks that help with some of that. But some of it was crops, some of it was fences, and just kind of asking what the county could do. And I know from my experience on council, what the county may do is much different than, say, what the province might do if there's programs. But I don't really have any experience in this, so I'm kind of laying it out there to see if anybody.
Well, I'm
has
sure
any-
he knows, but the Fish and Wildlife have a program that if the elk are coming into your haystack, they will bring you a fence, a chain link fence, but you put it up. And you can claim damages to the federal or provincial government, but county has no programs that I'm aware of out there. And yeah, any damage that they do, you can actually file claims. So.
Yeah.
I have one of the biggest herds, and I got pictures of it, of a herd of over 200 on my property. There is no, sure, I wish there was ways to collect for fence damage and that, but the deer do it, the snow does it, and that. You can try to go through Fish and Wildlife, but for county, it's not our responsibility. I wish it was. I mean, I'd file right tomorrow, but it's not. It's Fish and Wildlife. It's not a county thing, because if we look at elk, then we've got to look at deer, antelope, all the way right down to a gopher. We got to draw the line. I wish there was, but I got pictures of the herd of 200, and the hunter said there was 214 head in that herd.
There you go. Yeah, well, you brought it up. That's your answer. Okay, Blaine?
Yeah, same as Keith said, I was at the ASB conference, and yeah, there was really good speakers there, and enjoyed them all, talking about the various topics. Also had a library meeting on the 23rd of January. And also happy to report that Urban Resource Center had a party for their first anniversary, and they had about 60, 70 people there, had cake and stuff, and it was very well attended, and everybody seems to be really happy with the facility. They're gaining, the staff is doing an excellent job with some of their programming with the kids and stuff, and gaining new memberships all the time, so things are proceeding quite well in that building.
Okay. Richard?
Friday, January 17th, I attended the Foothills Little Bowl meeting in Lethbridge, passed some resolutions. One that didn't go through was one of the municipalities had suggested that we only have a meeting once a year in Edmonton, and RMA meeting in Edmonton, yes, and have the other one by Zoom, but most of us struggle with Zoom as far as the clarity. So anyway, that didn't go through. And then attended a community foundation Entre-Corps meeting on the 22nd. 23rd, I did a Zoom meeting with Milk River Watershed Council just because the roads were crap. And it's a tough way to participate in a meeting. So I try not to do that, but sometimes that 2-hour drive down, another 2 hours back, it's a tough one with weather. On Friday, January 24th, I represented Cypress County at the college. Mr. and Mrs. Yule made a $5 million donation to the college. This money will be used to see and enhance capacity and programming for healthcare students. It was suggested there would be, could be an initial 200 seats in high-demand healthcare programs. So the county was invited to participate, and Dan was on holidays, so I filled in for him. On Sunday in the afternoon, I was a judge at the Seven Persons Community Hall 4-H club, and I like going to those. I wear my name tag because not everybody knows you, and I get to talk to a lot of ratepayers, and there was a lot of positive stuff. You know, the odd question about a road maybe or a procedure, but it's a good. It's just another way of getting out into the community and talking to some people that normally wouldn't phone you and or send you an email. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Michelle?
The last council meeting was on January 14th, right? Okay. Then I had a shortgrass meeting on the 15th, and I haven't been to one of those because it's been conflicting with other meetings for quite some time. So we had nominated a new board. Well, it's the same board, but you know, did all the nominations and everything at that one. Then on the 16th, I had a Cypress View meeting. On the 17th, went to Lethbridge for Foothills Little Bow, and it was a very long, painful drive because it was really ugly outside. But we made it, and then I got to spend the week in a cabin in a hot tub. It was lovely. And since then, on Friday I did a virtual meeting with FCSS AA, which was supposed to be in person, but apparently it snowed somewhere else in the province and we couldn't have it in person. We had to do it virtually, so I did that. And yeah, that was it.
Mine was, for meetings, was pretty slow, just the library meeting. I was just going to say that they have 153 memberships, and last year, before it opened, they only had 37. So it's really growing, and they really are doing a fantastic job. It's great. So I went to the Elkwater Community Association meeting on Sunday, and learned that from Dylan that the Fire Smart program for the fire guards is not going ahead now. They were doing 35 hectares. The company that was doing it, whether they didn't know what Elkwater was like during the winter or not, pulled out. They only did 6 hectares and said they couldn't handle the weather. So they have left, they canceled the contract, walked away from it. So what they did with the money, they were able to get it transferred. So there's a company, different company that's doing a Fire Smart program in the town site, and they got 37 days to cut trees down. So apparently when they've done their trees, they're going to extend the sprinkler line and try and get it over, because right now the sprinkler just covers pretty well all of 7th Avenue and the trees there. And so there's nothing to the west, like for Fire Rock or that area in there, or the group camps. So my understanding is they're going to try and do that area and then put another sprinkler system in, depending on the budget. So, and that's pretty all, that's what's new.
Shane?
Oh, went to the Ag Service Board Convention. Like Blaine and Keith said, we had some really good speakers there this year. I attended the Rural Crime Watch meeting the other night, and I really wish our fellow counselor, Richard Oster, would have been there, because there was a really good presentation on how seniors are being taken advantage of on scams, both by phone and by internet. And I feel he would have really got a benefit from that, because it is becoming a really big issue, and I thought about you, sir, and that. I wish you would have been there. Also at the meeting, our fire chief did a very good presentation to everybody, and he presented an award to past counselor and past fireman Gary Lenz for his years of contribution to the fire department, because he was one of the originals that there, and gave him a nice plaque, and he was very surprised at it, and he was very appreciative. Also, the Rural Crime Watch now will include County of Newell and 40 Mile and Cypress. And we had a presentation from RCMP out of Bizano, out of Brooks, out of Bow Island, and out of Medicine Hat. All 4 detachments were there and did a presentation, and so it was quite good. Also, I attended, it was nice to see, it's nice to see some of our old, let's say, ranchers, purebred breeders. Blaine there, there used to be a lot of purebred breeders in our area of Hereford cattle. Now we're only down to 2. It's nice to see that Blaine is continuing on that there, and had an excellent sale where cattle sold to all over Western Canada and the States, and it was nice to see certain businesses prosper in our county, that it would become dying, because I counted one day when I was doing chores, I think there was 9 or 10 purebred breeders. Now we're down to 2. You know how it's dwindled. But you had a good one there, Blaine. Sure. Keep up the good work, and a few phone calls about roads, and one about what is our grader doing driving around when it's all ice on the roads, and I said I'll talk to Public Works about that. And no, that was about it.
Any questions on the reports? No. Sean?
It's not a question on the report, but I did forget to add something. I attended the State of the City address with Mr. Hogan one day. Shane was supposed to be there, but he didn't come for some reason. And yeah, it was good. I thought actually it was pretty short notice when Richard phoned me, and I kind of figured that I was going to have his name tag, and I was going to be Richard Oster for the day, but our lovely Leslie Ann was on it, and I had my own name tag.
Okay, any questions on the reports?
A little bit.
You don't remember, though. Richard's moving the reports? I think so. Vote. It's carried. Okay, we'll take a 2-minute break, and then we will, or do you want to go in camera first, Les? We'll go in as soon as we come back. Take a